What's going on, everyone? My name is Mr. Aquaman, and welcome to the KoloCast, a weekly show hosted by myself and the man over there, Flashyy. What's going on today, Flashyy?
Aquaman, what is going on? Listen, I think I say it every week, but this week is different. I am
You
so
do
excited.
say that every week.
I say it every week because I'm always so excited for our guests, but today is definitely a special one, man. We got arguably one of the most OG of all OGs in this space. I don't want to wait anymore. I'm not wasting any more time. Aquaman, please bring him in so we can get this conversation started. Who do we have today?
The one, the only, Mustard. What's going on, Mustard? How are you today? Welcome to the KoloCast. Just like Flashyy was saying, you have been there, done that. Even when I was getting started out, one of the people that inspired me to do all the things that I get to do here with the Kolosseum and with these fighting games in general. And here on the KoloCast, I want to get to know a little bit more about you. And for our viewers at home that have been watching tournaments for a long time, that have been watching this content for a long time, let's get to know you a little bit better. So how did you get started in all of this, Mustard? Because I know a little bit about it, having known you, and it's pretty crazy.
Well, I think before I answer the question fully, I'll just say thanks for that glowing intro. I don't know if I quite deserve that level of props, but I appreciate it nonetheless. You are both too kind. Thank you so much.
All right, guys.
I'm happy to be
here. Welcome, resident WB sellout PND Mustard to the show.
That's more like it. Shill Supreme, number one shill.
Shill Supreme, man.
Absolutely. No, but honestly, I appreciate you guys are too kind. I'm happy to be here. I know these are really chill. Really kind of just casual talks, and honestly I'm just in the mood for exactly this kind of thing, so thanks so much for getting me involved. I do hope those of you watching enjoy this, as it should be nice to chat about whatever it is we're going to be talking about. But to answer your question, well, I suppose I'll keep it more relevant to kind of the recent, what you may know us here for. But yeah, I got my start in the fighting game community back in 2011. Like many of us began, Mortal Kombat 9 was my first competitive video game, really, not even just fighting game. It came out, started going to events that I happened to be able to learn about through players like Ryan Hart and, other kind of like UK OGs who we just, in our travels at what we were doing, we'd bump into, we'd find out more about that there was a competitive scene, we would get involved. It actually started on there was a promotional tour for MK9 like over 10 years ago for the game. It was like the demo or something like that, and the city we lived in at the time, we were there for university, had a promotional tournament. There was one of the stops along the whole way was in that city. We were like, oh well, we like Mortal Kombat, we'll play it. So my brother Ryan and I, him as Ketchup, we turned up together. Ketchup ended up winning that tournament, which got him a qualification to like this UK final that Warner Brothers were doing, where they got all the different winners from the shops in, and Ketchup won that as well. And that's where we met a bunch of different people that we still to this day know. Used for Glue was there because he won one of the qualifiers. Ryan Hart is absolutely my number one inspiration when it comes to all things being a professional video games personality. He was there because, shock horror, he won a London event. And that was it. We started going to events because they linked us to where we needed to go. There were forums to use. Information was out there. Started competing. We kind of really created the original UK NetherRealm era scene. And it kind of just went from strength to strength through the NetherRealm games. Slowly but surely, I kind of went away from competitive play and moved into more of a commentary role, thanks to Mortal Kombat X and ESL. They were doing the Pro League, which was the first kind of mainline esports presence on a weekly basis online that we'd ever seen in the NetherRealm scene. And they approached Ketchup and I to commentate, which we accepted, and it did mean that we had to take a step back from playing, in favor of commentary. And then, that in itself started us down this huge road that we're still on to this day. I'm still now a full-time commentator, freelance Mortal Kombat commentator, content creator. I stream full-time on Twitch. My brother and I, we do a lot of YouTube content together, all around like tutorials. It kind of even that has changed slowly over the years. Like it was like really educational tutorial how-to content for Mortal Kombat, and even that now, Ketchup's taken the YouTube in more of a historian Mortal Kombat history direction. So it's kind of preserving the legacy of competitive Mortal Kombat through the years, and the Twitch is just whatever we do. A lot of fighting games, a lot of Mortal Kombat, a lot of variety these days. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm having a blast. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Unbelievable, man. I mean, you literally hit like every single part of what it is to be in the fighting game community, where it's player, commentator, streamer, YouTuber. Like you literally are all TO. Like you're all over the place. So my first question of the day is, out of all those hats that you wear, what would you say has been your favorite?
I definitely would say that at least the thing I'm the most proud of, I think, is another way to answer that question, is just what, and I don't mean for this to sound arrogant. This is just it's coming from the heart.
Shill.
How proud I am of what I've been able to achieve from a commentary standpoint.
Yes.
Because I've enjoyed everything that I've done and continue to do. Because if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be doing it. I've loved competing. I've loved, playing at the highest level. I've loved commentary. I've loved content. I've loved all these different bits. But the thing I'm by far the most proud of is just how much amazing things I've been able to be involved with through commentary. And a lot of that has come from like more official involvement with the game, So I love the grassroots stuff, I will always be involved in that. I'll always love that. But I'm talking like commentating for ESPN for Injustice 2 finals. I'm talking top 8 at Evo, doing Evo, the live crowd in person to X thousand people, however many that was. Being involved in like, globally watched reveal events and being able to debut gameplay through characters and stuff like that. And that's all been through commentary. And like, the amount of places I've been able to go and the experiences I've been able to have as a professional in this, in these spaces, are absolutely nothing that I ever predicted I would even remotely be involved in. And commentary is largely the reason that's been able to happen, and I've been very, very happy with, how it's been a continuous thing. And I'm very proud that I've been able to stay in that position to be able to do those cool things. And I would say that's definitely if I had to pick one as an absolute, like, yes, that's my glowing, most proud favorite thing, definitely that.
Which is,
and
I was gonna say real quick, which is different from a lot of the other people that we've brought on that have their kind of, feet in all of these different corners of the space, whether it be commentary, whether it be, a competitor, tournament organizer, streamer, content creator, however uniquely that might be. A lot of people, I know when we were talking to Arma, it was the organizational aspect of it, that feeling after an event. And for all of us, it definitely is different. And it's really cool to get that perspective of it being the commentator aspect of it. And more importantly, why, which is something that even I forget sometimes, is how much cool shit we've been able to do because of it.
Well, I mean, as of the time that we're recording this, I am on a bit of a break when it comes to commentary. I haven't commentated regularly, I'd say at this point, maybe for about 6 months. So I've had a lot of time to reflect on what I've been doing over the last, because I started commentating full time in 2015 onwards. So I've been commentating for about 7 years. Hang on, 6, 7, higher end of 6 years. But I've had a lot of time to reflect. And when I'm thinking about what I've been able to do, and again, not to sound self-centered or arrogant, because I'm not saying I'm this like godly, amazing person to be able to do all this. I'm just very proud of myself and Ketchup, and what the two of us together have been able to do. To kind of reflect on the last kind of handful of years and just know, damn, we did that. We went there to do that, and that we were there, and people told us that we did a good job, and we were able to do it again the next year. And as much as I love every aspect of what I've done, this isn't to say this is the only one, but it's just because I've had a lot of time to reflect, I think, to be like, I'm really proud that I've been able to do that,
Absolutely. And yeah, going over your whole kind of history, it's just been unbelievable, man. And I think one of the things that I pride most people on is like, if you're able to take something you're passionate about and you love, and it can take you all across the world to all these different avenues and corners of the world and meeting all these people and doing all these things. Like you said, you're on TV, you were over here, you're over there, you're in this country, you're in that country, like all the different things that you're able to do just because you had a passion for Mortal Kombat. Like that's where it stemmed from, and all these things happen. And I think that's just one of the coolest things about this whole ride that we're all on together in content creating and in the FGC. But my question now is, tackling all 3 or all 4 of the hats that you're on, what are some of the challenges of being a commentator, being a content creator, being a TO at the same time? What are some challenges that you faced in trying to do all of those at the same time?
I think a big part is technically speaking, it's freelance, kind of like self initiated work. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of hard work, but because there's no you have to treat it as a job, because it is a job. It's hard work, it's a lot of effort. But you are very reliant on yourself, and that there's a lot of responsibility you have that you must never take for granted. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is almost having it feel like a 24/7 job. You know what I mean? You've always got to make sure you're not, not talking like an idiot online. If you are going to say, if you want to get across like a negative opinion, do it in a constructive way that isn't going to, send the wrong message or cause problems, for no reason. Making sure that you're, obviously keeping up to date, doing a lot of homework, staying up to date with what's going on in the community.
And there's a lot going on in the community.
Well, of course, and there always will be, because it's a living thing. The community is, there's no application form for being involved in what we do. It's just, if you love the games that we all are involved with and play and adore, and you're in the social media space, you can get involved in conversations. You can put videos out there. You can stream. You can give your opinion to every little thing that you do. So there's a lot to keep track of, I think, and it's just keeping up with it is by far one of the hardest things, because there's a lot to balance at one time, and it's very easy for one mistake to cause a lot of problems. Especially nowadays, with social media being such a minefield of every word. It's definitely something that you have to kind of keep one eye on constantly, and you must never take your eye off it, because that's when the rest of it begins to fall apart.
I can resonate with that 100%. Sometimes I get on Twitter and I feel like I'm a couple months behind, as far as I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, well, why isn't so and so banned from your tournament? I'm like, what is even happening right now? Like all these little things that can happen.
It's been particularly bad the last couple of years,
yes,
because of and obviously not to drag the mood down and talk about COVID already, but like, because COVID has had us all at home for a couple of years, it's basically been an online scene in the fighting game world for 2 years, right? Like, we haven't been able to go offline, and that huge element to what got us involved in fighting games in the first place
100%
hasn't been able to be there. So it's kind of like it's been a double-edged sword to kind of really pave this way for the online era of fighting games, because obviously now we're at a point where developers, they're putting rollback in more things. It's not always great rollback, but at least they're trying, like, it's progress being made, and it means that all these games and all these communities are online now. And online, how people can get, people will say things they wouldn't normally say, they beef when they wouldn't normally beef, everything's getting twisted, everyone hates everyone, and I've definitely never seen it be this potent.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely just crazy, because it's been such an online couple of years. That's all it is.
And I think that what a lot of people need to realize is that, a lot of people see that and they associate it with the community, and they're like, oh, well, the NRS community is just fucking toxic. Well, I mean, that is, there are truths to that aspect, but it's the internet, and I think the entire internet is that current way right now. You look at any game, you look at any community, and it's a lot of people that are unhappy sitting at home right now and kind of unleashing it, and a lot of people are unleashing it with what the internet gives them, which is
toxicity is contagious as well. Like when people are in that situation, and
they can do it anonymously. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's
offline.
Well, yeah.
If you open up your mouth, I can see it. That's all I'm saying.
We're finally putting faces to Twitch chat. That's what's happening over the last couple of years.
You had mentioned towards the end of one of the questions that we had that, or, a couple of times, even in your origin story, that you do a lot of this with your brother, Catch Up. And it's got to be the most unique content creation, grind I've seen, in that you two have been able to do it in a very effective manner together. With the Ketchup and Mustard brand, the K&M brand, as it were. And how has that been? Because it is so unique. It's something I can't even fathom, because for a lot of us, it's we're doing it by ourselves. How has it been doing it with your brother, and has there been any challenges? And how has it progressed? I know that now you guys have actually kind of taken on different roles within that brand, but did it used to be where you guys were just doing the same thing together all the time? And maybe walk us through that a little bit.
It's definitely changed over the years somewhat, but at its core, it's always been really good for us, and a huge reason as to why both of us have enjoyed it to begin with. Us getting into this whole world of stuff together was just because we both were, we went to the same uni, went to the same course, so we've always kind of been, inseparable in that sense. So this was originally just another hobby that we both decided to mutually get into together. And it definitely has, over time, become more of a career-focused thing. But again, it's because we've both had the same perspectives is why we've been able to kind of stick together this whole time. But I'll be honest, it's been great. Ryan and I, we're more than just workmates. We're twin brothers, but we are best friends. We've always have been, we always will be. And the fact that we've been able to do all this crazy stuff together has been a huge reason as to what's kind of kept us going, what's kept us honest about it, honestly, what's kept us, on the straight and narrow.
Same.
But also, when it comes to content, we've also been each other's kind of like, go-to for whether it's criticism, honest feedback, trying to bounce ideas off each other, sharing in the workload a lot of the time. Like, it has been like equal parts us lifting the same amount of weight, which has definitely made the grind a bit more comfortable, but has also, I think, kept us to a higher standard of quality for ourselves, because we've always been each other's biggest supporters and biggest critics when necessary, and I think that's made things just so good for the two of us.
Are there any unexpected challenges that came up when you two were like, okay, let's do this YouTube channel content thing together, or has it just been smooth sailing ever since?
I mean, it's not been without its hiccups, of course. There will come every now and then hiccups that you're not sure of, that you don't expect. You've got to deal with, like, for example, when MK11 came out, there was a huge problem with videos getting demonetized and restricted, so they wouldn't be shared around, and the algorithm would just pretend they didn't exist. And that was a huge problem for the two of us, because we were so dedicated to really pushing out YouTube content at the time. We had this incredible problem that there was just seemingly no issue for, so we had to think again. That was a prime example for us to kind of like clash our heads together and think, right, what can we do about this? Are there any workarounds? Can we do X, Y, Z? But honestly, like the main obstacle we thought we would find that hasn't really happened was simply the fact of there's two of us. So there will be opportunities that would exist for one person. Maybe they don't exist for two. Maybe they don't have the budget for two. Maybe they don't have the space for two. Maybe us being a duo isn't really what they want now. And we were expecting that to be a problem a lot, which is why we're always like, if cool stuff gets to happen, it happens. But we'll just do our thing, stick together, and see what happens. But lo and behold, we've been very fortunate that we've both been commentating just as long. We're both still, regularly invited to and approached to be hired for shows and community events and official broadcasts together. We just got back from London, which I can't talk about what we were there for, but we were doing something very cool together that existed because they wanted us as a pair, So we initially expected it to be a problem, but as the years have gone on, it's actually worked out to be a benefit, because it's like you said, it has, again, not to sound arrogant, because I don't want to toot my own horn, but it has become like a duo, and there are opportunities for a duo that might be a bit more appealing than a solo, person or individual opportunity.
That's awesome.
I think it's absolutely awesome that you guys are in this unique position where, again, you said you guys are like best friends. Like, you get to have your best friend right next to you while you're doing all this awesome stuff.
It is incredible, and I want to say I'm well aware of just how fortunate I am to be in this position, because I can sit here and talk about the huge grind it took to get to this point, and the like I said, the ongoing, never-ending, you got to be keeping an eye on what you're doing. You don't want to let up too much. You don't want to take your eye off what you're doing. But there is definitely a degree of being fortunate, and you must always be grateful and appreciative of these situations, because not everyone gets to do that, and I am well aware of that. So I'm just super grateful and just appreciative that I get to do this.
Being humble can get you very, very far in life, and that's not just content creation. I think that's just a good general bit of advice for everyone right there. And I got a question for you real quick, which is, do you guys... I know you guys a little bit, I guess a lot of it, because we have hung out a lot, but do you guys handle separate aspects of content creation associated with the brand? Because I know that you do a lot of streaming, he does a lot of YouTube. Is that kind of how it's structured, or is there a little bit of this and that going on?
So that's another thing that, as we've gotten comfortable with how to handle different aspects over the years, has changed. But nowadays we're definitely, I think, at our most comfortable, where we've also only been full-time creators, the two of us, for like, I'd say a year and a half, 2 years maybe. Maybe just over that, because COVID's kind of blurred the last 2 years into one, so it barely feels like any time has passed.
I don't even know what day it is today, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, no, for real. But nowadays we both handle the same things when it comes to like overall, opportunities or things that may crop up or things that can happen. But when it comes to the day-to-day, Ketchup does the YouTube, I do the Twitch. There's a little bit of crossover where You know, one of us might really, you know, Ketchup might really feel like doing a stream, and you know, he would tend to stream when I wouldn't be live anyway. So it's like, if he wants to go live, he'll go live. If I feel like throwing something on YouTube, I'll throw something on YouTube. So like, neither of us restrict the other one. There's no restrictions or stopping us. But the full-time focus is definitely where Ketchup looks at the YouTube, and I do the Twitch. You know, and that's kind of been our balance of the content, I suppose, for the last couple of years. And I have no reason to think that we'll be changing it anytime soon, because we're definitely very okay with how things are being handled.
Freaking geniuses.
While staying on the topic of you and your brother, but kind of moving away from content creating, I just have to know, when did Mortal Kombat enter the Ketchup and Mustard household, and what is that story like of you two sitting down for the first time and just playing each other in Mortal Kombat on whatever system it might have been back then? What is that story?
So it's actually our earliest video gaming memory period was playing vanilla Mortal Kombat 3 on the Super Nintendo around our cousin's house. So the dynamic of getting games in our household when we were young, because we don't come from a background of you know, wealth. I wouldn't say poverty, but we were definitely on the more, like, you know, the lower end of things. So our method of getting games was basically our cousin would get all the new consoles, and then when the next console would come out, our mum would buy his old console off him, and then we would get that. So that's how we ended up getting games when we were younger. So lo and behold, you know, we played that around our cousins. We saw him play. It was like Killer Instinct and, you know, a few other games, but Mortal Kombat 3 was the first one we remember seeing. And then we ended up getting that at home. And we remember sitting down. We didn't even have two controllers, so we were basically taking it in turns to fight, you know, early arcade ladders. And I remember one of us fought against Sindel, AI Sindel. She beat the crap out of us and did a fatality, and we didn't even know that finishing moves were a thing. So we just saw the background of the stage go dark and the, you know, the MK3 thing, and she's like, you know, does the fatality where she wraps you up and spins and limbs go flying everywhere, and the character's going, ah! And we're just like, it scared the shit out of us. Like, it actually was terrifying. We hit reset on the console, and we just, like, you know, we turned the console off and we ran downstairs. And we loved it. We couldn't get enough. The first thing we did when we calmed down, we went straight back upstairs, turned it back on again. We're like, let's see what else is there. And then we just let the attract mode play, so we could see all, like, the character bios, and it would show fatalities in between. And that was our first like introduction to Mortal Kombat as kids. But we eventually got a second controller because a thrift shop, or charity shop we call them in the UK. We found one, had like a third-party, weird-looking Super Nintendo pad. It was like twice the size. It was barely functional. It had an individual turbo slider for every button. It was a beast of a controller, but we got that, so we ended up getting the ability to play against each other. And yeah, we would just lose so much time, just constantly playing against each other. And that really is that was our first impression on Mortal Kombat, and that was our first introduction to the franchise, I suppose. We were about 5 or 6 at the time, I think.
Wow.
We're far too young.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah, far too young to be playing MK. But hey, you guys turned out all right.
Most of us did.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the mustard and the ketchup thing came from Cyrax and Sector, I'm assuming. What was that conversation between the two of you like, where you're like, you know what, we're the condiment twins now, and then it's just gonna stick?
So it's a long story, but don't worry, I'll abbreviate it. So the reason we knew we were going to play Cyrax and Sector, like I said, our first competitive game was Mortal Kombat 9 in 2011. We were on the train to our first tournament. We were on the way to London. We knew we'd need player names. We didn't really have player names at the time, or like, you know, whatever. Every account would be a different name, right? Steam was different, Xbox Live was different, everything was different. So we didn't really have names that we'd go by in the gaming space. And we were like, we got to think of something. And we knew we'd be playing Cyrax and Sector because they were always our favorites as kids. We'd always loved Cyrax and Sector ever since we first saw them. So we knew, and they were who we were playing in MK9 going into this tournament. So we were like, we know we're playing them. Let's do something about it. And there's a little behind the scenes story. I've mentioned it many, many times, but for those of you that don't know, I'll say it again. Back in the development of MK3, Cyrax and Sector went a huge amount of time in development without actually having official names, because Midway just couldn't think of what to call them. So their placeholder names were Ketchup and Mustard because they were red and yellow robots. So that's what they were called in game until the Mortal Kombat team created the names, you know, Sector and Cyrax. And And we learned that through there was like behind the scenes Mortal Kombat trading cards in MK. It was either Deception or Armageddon, but it was a bunch of like individual behind the scenes stuff with characters, and we would eat that shit up all day, the behind the scenes stuff. So we were like, that's cool. Why don't we just call ourselves Ketchup and Mustard? And we were like, yeah, sure. And that was that. And it's been.
And the rest is history, man. That's unbelievable.
I wish I was able to pick something cooler, and I feel like I say that every single time.
Says it every time, man.
Yep,
every time
every
we bring up names, Aquaman's just like, I hate my name.
Yep, I hate it, man. I wish I got something cooler. My introduction was Trilogy, and I want to say it was the Super Nintendo. I was watching a buddy play it, and he was playing Rain, and he did the bubble, and the animation of the bubble caught the eye of my corner from across the house, and I ran over and immediately was like, what just happened? I need to know.
Rain was so cool, man. Like even back then, like in an era where the male ninjas were still just palette swaps, the fact that they were so different from a gameplay perspective was all you needed. They were so interesting.
I saw it was like the hit animation of the bubble where the guy's in the air just going, ah!
Oh, yeah, you get the noise, like the noise is almost like,
yeah,
it's got
this weird sound to it, and I was immediately attracted to it. Years later, still very much an aficionado of all things water named Aquaman, so it was a match.
Hey man, that is cool.
Yeah,
you got a good one. You
pulled
a decent one out of the hat.
Yeah. I have no idea how WB hired me at all with a name of one of their characters that they like officially licensed. So,
I mean, your job's fine until they, decide to sell off the name or whatever may happen.
The moment
so you're right for now, at least.
The moment I get more popular than Jason Momoa, it's over for me. I already know it.
You're done.
That's what it is.
You're done. Now, while we're talking about retro MK games or just MK games in general, Mustard, I gotta know, you've played them all pretty much. What is your favorite Mortal Kombat game?
Mortal Kombat 2011.
Wow!
Easily.
Right away, MK9.
Easily.
No questions asked.
There are a lot of Mortal Kombats that I like. I could give you like, if you want me to go into some detail, I can give you like a top 5 maybe in like a set order. But my absolute number one is Mortal Kombat 9. Mortal Kombat 9 it is the greatest Mortal Kombat ever made. It has a perfect roster. It is the reason NetherRealm exists the way it is now. I have to really struggle to think of a reason I would not want to play it. It plays so good. Like, I could whack that game on any day, any time, and enjoy it. Like, I don't forget anything. I just have to shake off a little rust, and I'm having as much fun as when I first played it. There's just something about that game. Outside of the fact that it got me into competitive, it set me on the path that I've been on for 10 years, and, and I'm absolutely loving. But even taking all of the stuff the game did, for me personally, even if I'm looking at it as just a game to be played, it is a perfect Mortal Kombat game. It is so, so, so good, and I think it's going to be one of those games that will remain one of my favorites for all time for my life. You know what I mean? I don't see that ever changing.
I think it kind of set the tone on what everyone even wants to this day. When everyone talks about MK11, when they talk about MKX, or more specifically MK11 lately, they're like, we just want some big flashy combos, and we want to see some crazy ass shit, and MK9 delivered exactly that, and in a really good setting. The return to 2D, everything about it was I think, in a word, iconic about Mortal Kombat.
If we ever got Mortal Kombat 9 re-released with rollback netcode and the game-breaking bugs fixed, with maybe a balance patch, but as long as we have the option to go with the current patch at least, I don't think I'd ever play anything else. I don't think I'd ever need another video game.
I don't think I've ever had a conversation, and being in a very fortunate position I am to have been able to run some Mortal Kombat 9 recently, even in an online setting.
I mean, you and I were just playing Parsec MK9 like, what, a week ago? Like, Texas to UK? Like, who knows what 10 years from now we'll be able to do with MK9, Like, who knows?
That's right. And I've been able to do it with a lot of different people and trying to get a lot of people involved, and every single one of them, I don't think that there's been a person that hasn't said that would be like a dream come true, would be an MK9 remaster rollback. And with that kind of same idea of, all of us agree, whoever you are in this community, if you played MK9, I think that all of us can still come to an agreement and be brother in arms to say that just get rid of the game-breaking bugs.
The bugs, absolutely.
And it is still a wonderful game. Yeah, could it use some balancing? Absolutely. Kenshi, Cabal, Cyrax, all of those. Maybe just.
Thing is, like,
but it is still a very
okay.
playable game.
No, 100%. Like, I'm a Cyrax player, so no one's gonna believe me anyway when I say that. I'm fine with the balance patch to stay as it is for like the game just to be played.
Yeah, just to be played.
If we were to ever be able to play it again, make it a remaster, but fix the bugs. So input bug gone, meter drain gone, player one advantage
gone. Get out of here.
Like, get rid of those, and the game instantly becomes like,
exactly
so much more competitive. Because thing is, like older unbalanced games, they've always been. You watch Marvel 2, that game's got one of the biggest rosters I've ever seen. Watch it competitively, you see like 10% of the roster. Is that a problem for Marvel 2 players? No, because they've played it for so long, they accept that that's what the game is. If they're playing it competitively, they have their main teams and the main ones they'll play. But, you know, I can watch Justin Wong now in 2021 streaming Marvel 2, and he's playing all sorts of characters, all sorts of teams, because he just loves the game. If he's not competing, who cares what the balance is like, you know? Like, if you're just playing it for fun because you love the game, you can do that. And there are many fighting games with examples like that. And I think MK9 is just another one of those over the years. Not everything has to be, like, the perfect epitome of balance.
Yeah.
Especially if the game came out 10 years ago.
You know, you spoke about the fact that if MK9 came out with a remaster and bug fixes, you would never play another video game again. But, unfortunately, we're not there right now. So you are playing a ton of different games. You know, we talked a little bit about Back 4 Blood on the pre-call here. I know that on your YouTube channel, on you and your brother's YouTube channel, he plays a lot of Doom and stuff like that. So you got a bunch of different games. So I want to kind of talk about, I think we spent a lot of time here talking about MK and like content creating within MK. What is it like having a predominantly focused MK community and kind of just content creating focus? What's it like to move over to Variety and try to play other games? Because I think a lot of people are, one, scared to do it, and two, they're just like, why would I? You know, so what was kind of the mentality of being like, I want to move away from MK, and, you know, just speak about some of the challenges and kind of the things you've had to overcome when moving over to Variety.
So I'm happy you asked this, because I do think it's a really important topic, especially, you know, for content creators that might be listening. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I am by no means a shining example of like a thriving Variety stream, but you know, I have been able to do what you said. You know, I took a largely Mortal Kombat focused Twitch, and now 2 years later, it is a Variety Twitch, and the channel has survived. It's doing just fine. You know, I'm still able to do my thing, and the community is there. The community is healthier than ever on our Twitch. You know, things are really cool, and it did take a lot of effort to get to that point, because it is scary. When you make a decision to turn a content channel that's focused on one thing and try and shift the focus into something a bit different, there is always the risk of, am I going to kill my channel by doing this? You know, because ultimately, if you establish yourself for one thing and then you decide to maybe start doing something else, there's always the chance that the community follows you for that and that alone, and they straight up don't want to watch anything else. You know, that's always a worry. That's always a potential thing that can happen. But the reason I decided to try and pursue that was because a few things. First and foremost, it wasn't because I'm getting bored of Mortal Kombat. You know, Mortal Kombat's in my blood. I'll always adore it. I'll always create Mortal Kombat content. Even now I'm Variety, I still do Mortal Kombat at least like once every 3 weeks or something like that in some fashion, because, hey, people want to watch it. And I love Mortal Kombat. I'm still going to play it. It's not like I'm just never going to do it again. But the main reasons were, number one, I know, for me personally, I would not be able to just focus on one game for as long as a cycle can be in NetherRealm. So, and in hindsight, this was even the right game to do that with. So I am dedicated to what I really love and what I like, but I do have my limits in terms of how long I can do it before thinking, am I going to run out of stuff to content to make? Am I going to run out of stuff to stream? I'd never want to feel like I was getting in a situation where I'm just like, oh, well, I'm here. Click go live, stream for like 4 or 5 hours. Guess that's it for another day. I'm always looking for that next thing to do, that next like way of expanding the content, evolving the content. I'd never want it to sit there for like 3 years, and for 3 years I've streamed nothing but MK11 and only MK11, and, you know, on stream number 1000 on year 4, I'm like, here I am. I'm just doing Combat League again. Nothing to aim for, nothing to go for. Like, I know that I would get fed up making that kind of content, and if I'm fed up making it, there's no way people would want to watch it. That was my kind of mindset going for it.
Right.
And I love the act of streaming. It's my favorite day to day. Like, this is the funnest job I've ever had, is full-time streaming. I love streaming for an audience. I love streaming for my community. You know, seeing the same names in chat, having it be a community thing. It feels like I'm playing games with my mates, you know what I mean? It feels like we're all kind of crowded on like a giant sofa and everyone's just watching we're playing on a TV or something. That's what it feels like to me. And that's why I love full-time content creation. So I'm like, if I can keep that fresh by changing into a more variety look, it means the channel, if it can sustain on variety, is gonna have always something new to watch. There's always going to be fresh experiences. It could be much more of a longer lasting decision. The channel could last longer because we don't need a specific game to be able to excuse doing full-time streaming. And it means that I can kind of give the community back to what they want, because when I first made the decision, I was completely transparent with my community. I was like, right, I basically explained what I just said here, and I'm like, I would love to start pushing into a variety direction just to see what we can do, just to see what it's like. Is this something that you want to watch? I've got a Discord that's very active. I've got a lot of regulars that would tune in, and that they're always honest with me. I'm always honest with them. And the general response was, sure, no problem, And then the people were coming up with suggestions of, maybe you could try this game, maybe you could try that game.
Did you start it? I think I remember when you first maybe started getting your foot wet. Was it not Dark Souls? If I remember correctly, I actually remember being like, they're not streaming Mortal fucking Kombat?
No, it was exactly that. And that was actually, in hindsight, the perfect kind of like go-to next thing, when I was like, I want to try some variety so we could excuse doing other games, trying other games. What else could people watch? And that was the number one response from like almost everyone that watched was, we would love to watch you play through the Dark Souls games. And that kind of genre, right? The Souls-like, the really difficult kind of single-player melee combat games.
It's just like Mortal Kombat, Mustard. They just want to watch you die.
But that's the thing, though. Die I did hundreds of times. But I enjoyed it. I felt like that was a really good like branching point. So if I'm going from fighting games, competitive fighting games, going to which are known for their high skill, their execution, their knowledge, stuff like that. I'm like, if I'm going to something else and giving it a proper try, this isn't a terrible next go-to. It's similar enough. And then from after finish Dark Souls, we can go to other games in that genre, which gradually leads to other ones, which gradually leads to other ones. And it's kind of like this smooth, ever-flowing, like, you're seeing what games people do want to watch, which ones they're not so fussed about. Do you try new releases? Do you try releases a bit similar to what you've been doing? And you're kind of always keeping an eye on the stats, always keeping an eye on how things are going, and feedback. That's the number one thing. See what your community is saying about the games you're going to, And slowly but surely, we've been able to do that, and 2 years later, here I am, streaming Back 4 Blood to better numbers than I would even used to get on MK11. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely been a slow process, and it's been a delicate one for sure. But I've got a great community. I'm very grateful to have them, and we've been able to just continue doing it. And now the Twitch is variety, and I'm really happy about it.
Have there been any unexpected adjustments that you've had to make when moving into variety? Like any kind of left turns that you didn't realize you would have to make or anything like that? Or has it kind of just been as expected going through it?
To be honest, I think the number one thing is just making sure that I definitely have to stick much more to a schedule than I would if I was like focusing on just one game. Because if you do just one game, I'm not saying a schedule isn't important, but when people see you going live, they know what game it's going to be. They'll be like, oh, they're live. Maybe I'll just tune in. That's kind of, they know what they're getting.
They know
but
what
if you're
to expect.
doing variety, you have to give people like time to know what you will be streaming and when, and you have to know what time of day they'll be, checking it out. Because a big part of variety is people watching content that they normally wouldn't think they would watch, but they're watching it because they want to see you play it and they want to see you experience it, and they'll either want your feedback or they just want to see your reactions to it or something like that. And it's easier for people to do that when they know A, what's coming and when, and B, what time to watch it. Just so they've kind of got that buffer window to know, right, we'll give this a go, we'll give this a try. So you definitely have to be a bit more punctual, I think, than if you were to just stream, the same thing every time, because they know you're live, they know what to expect. Whereas if it's a bit more varied, they kind of need that time, which I didn't really know originally, because I didn't really consult any other streamers. I didn't really talk to anyone and be like, hey, I'm thinking of doing variety, what do you think? It was very much kind of like I just talked to Ryan about it. You know what I mean? And that was it. So I was kind of learning as I went a lot of the time as well.
I think something super unexpected with going into variety is that you actually might grow even more so. Like, yeah, your numbers might be lower, but you're dipping into other Twitch categories. So now that whole category of viewers is going to be able to check you out. And then your quote-unquote regulars that would watch you for the other game, well, now they're watching you for you. They're not watching you for Mortal Kombat. So they're going to grow a much fonder attachment to Mustard as opposed to growing a much fonder attachment to just Mortal Kombat. So now they're going to follow you through whatever you want to do. So now you're dipping into another pond of viewers while also growing a much stronger attachment to your viewers that are already there from that last game. So I think dipping into variety is a super healthy thing to do. And it's awesome that you had a very strong mentality with it. And you also kind of went into it with a plan. And I think that's kind of the key to success there, is have that plan and understand that there's going to be some bumps in the road that you're going to have to mitigate.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to be deterred if you are a content creator and you want to start doing other games, you want to start doing other things regularly. Because obviously, even if you stream one game alone, every few weeks, you might be like, I think I'm just going to stream something different today. You see your viewership's like 10% of what it used to be, and like, oh, screw that, I'm not doing that again. And then, they'll never go back. But if you really want to do variety, and again, I don't say this as like a super duper thousands of viewers a day variety streamer. I just say this as someone that has been able to sustain full-time content while making the change and continues to do so. If anyone out there wants my advice, the number one thing is just don't be deterred. Obviously be sensible about it. If you swap from your normal content to other content, and then like 2 months later, you're still sitting at like 20% of what you would normally get, and people are actively saying all the time, like, are you going to go back to the thing, and you're not kind of communicating that, that can cause problems. Then the number one thing is don't be deterred, and make sure you are being as transparent with your community as possible, because it doesn't matter what streamer you are. I would say the 0.00001% of streamers can literally click go live and stream anything and get the exact same, because it's not just about viewership. It's about how many people are supporting you. Are people following? Are people sharing? Are people subscribing? Of course. But there's like the vast majority of us will always get more viewers and interaction for one thing than something else, right? What you mustn't do is see that and be like, right, never doing that again. Like, it is, if you want to establish variety, that is a side of it that you're going to have to deal with. But your community are real people, and they're watching you, and they choose to watch you because they like watching you. And I'm pretty sure we can all say out there that there are personalities in all walks of entertainment that it doesn't matter what they do, I'll watch it because I think they're great. Whether it's a streamer, whether it's a presenter, whether it's an actor, whether it's a musician. I mean, like I'll listen to music projects that I have never in my life ever thought I'd listen to myself, just because Mike Patton from Faith No More is the frontman. You know what I mean? He's in like a million groups of the weirdest genres I've never ever heard in my life, but I listen to it because he's the frontman. You know what I mean?
I think I listened to Bluegrass because Robert Plant was singing it one time, and I was like, I'm listening to Bluegrass right now. Never would have thought that would have happened.
But that's the thing, and whether it's a successful celebrity or musician or even a small streamer, you know what I mean? Like, you watch this content because you like watching the person doing it most of the time. I think we all have examples of that. We will watch because it's them, and we just like watching them. So don't be afraid to and I know for some of us it can be hard to think that there are people out there that like watching us like that, but it is a thing. It is a real thing, and make sure you're as interactive with your community as possible, whether you're getting a Discord, whether you're sending emails to subscribers, whatever it is. Just talk to your community, see what they think, see what they say, keep an eye on the numbers, and do your thing. Don't be deterred.
I think I can speak from a lot of experience from not just my own channel, but I've recently started the Kolosseum Studios here, because I was going through it for a long time of what did I want to put most of my time and my effort into, and I myself had to go through a lot of soul searching over a long period of time of just streaming myself play, and doing little events here and there, to now I personally love putting together these long, massive tournament series that have this insane production to them. And now I'm at a crossroads, even to this day, even right now as we speak, looking at it and wanting more myself, in that fighting games are very limited as to how you can produce it, how you can show it to the viewer. You know, it's two characters on a screen, there's a health bar, that's what you have to work with. There's no maps to play with, there's not a lot that you can interact with as far as the characters and stuff. But in other games, you can do so much more. And even right now, I'm looking at potentially doing another game, or potentially even more games, to branch out and kind of scratch that itch.
Well, you used to commentate PUBG. I'd see you on all sorts of stuff, right? Like,
yeah,
you've been there,
back in the
done
day.
that, and it's an ever growing thing.
Yeah, and so even now, it's do I make that leap and try something else because it's what I want to do? But will everyone that's been watching these Mortal Kombat tournaments, and only these Mortal Kombat tournaments for years, look at it and go, all right, fuck this guy, we're gonna go watch this other one instead? And that's something that you got to think about. But you're right, it's you got to take a leap, and it's two things. It's what you want to do, and then hopefully they'll enjoy it as well.
It will never kill your channel to experiment.
Yeah.
The only thing that can cause you damage is if you dedicate without doing it properly, without planning, and just stubbornly being like, nope, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm doing from now on. What happens. That could work out, or it could be a disaster. You know what I mean? But never be afraid to experiment, give it a go. Because thing is, it can take time to find your niche, right? You know, we're not the youngest guys out there, but we're not the oldest either. You know, I think we're pretty middle of the pack when it comes to age in modern esports. You know, kind of high, upper 20s, early 30s, whatever it may be. It can take a while to find your niche. You know, and even when you found your niche, is that what you want to dedicate to forever, or do you get to the point that you're like, maybe I'll try something else out? Because
or does it evolve
over time? It's a busy,
like
wide world
else?
in esports and content. You know what I mean? There's a million avenues to it. There's a million things you can do to be creative and really enjoy what you're doing. And it can take time to figure out what that is. You know, and there's never a bad time to get into it. You know, you're never too old to decide, I would like to make a change. You know, maybe I want to try something a little bit different. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no expiration date on anything that we do. That's always the silver lining. You know, you can always give it a go and see what happens.
I think that's a perfect way to end it right there. No expiration date indeed right here in this community. Mustard, it's been an absolute honor having you on. Longtime friend of the community, one of the best and brightest people that we got. So thank you for coming on.
You are too
here.
kind. No, thank you both so much. This has been really chill, really relaxing, and I've been as busy as hell. So this is exactly what I needed, I think, just to kind of sit down, unwind a bit, and chat the chat.
Well, thanks, man.
It's too good, man.
Awesome having you on. Flash, you want to take us home for the evening?
Absolutely. Mustard, it was unbelievable talking to you, dude. Hearing the origin story and then all the advice that you just gave at the end there, and the most poetic line that I think has been ever said on the KoloCast, with the whole that there's no expiration date is a silver lining. I'm going to take that to the moon, man. That was way too good. But again, if there's anybody that hasn't followed you yet, I don't even know what you guys are doing. Be sure to follow Mustard. Follow the PND K&M YouTube channel. It's all going to be in the description. Mustard, we got to have you back, man. There's so much more to talk about, and I just know that we need a round 2 over here. So seriously, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. And everybody, be sure to subscribe to the Kolosseum, subscribe to Mustard's Twitch channel, subscribe to their YouTube channel, follow them on Twitter, do all that good stuff. We're going to catch you guys next Thursday for another episode. We'll see you guys then. Peace.